Welcome to the Explainer. All right, let's dive right into synthesizing this sprawling 236-part curriculum to give you a definitive map out of what the sources call the digital enclosure. We're going to completely deconstruct the systems you use every single day, look at the exact mechanics of how human intent is captured, and figure out how to restore the true magic of human authorship in an age completely dominated by artificial intelligence. Think about this for a second. A stark reality right out of the gate is that 58.5% of Google searches now end in 0 clicks. That means the majority of the time, users never actually leave the search engine to visit an external website. The sources describe this as a staggering $2 billion extinction event. AI summaries are literally swallowing up creator traffic and livelihoods. The internet used to be this amazing partner that routed traffic to creators, right? But now, it's acting way more like a massive, closed loop.
So, to guide you directly out of this legacy anxiety and into true digital sovereignty, here are the 6 specific epochs we'll be charting today. The modern crisis, origins of authorship, the semiotic bridge, the 1689 breach, bare metal, and finally, the grand finale sequence. Let's jump in.
Starting things off with Part 1, the modern crisis and the digital enclosure. This covers the initial research found in Epoch 1, spanning videos 001 through 010. Okay, so right off the bat, we encounter this immediate crisis. The web is kind of eating its own model. We're facing an era where massive tech giants deploy tools that actively intercept the connection between the creator and the consumer. It creates this centralized enclosure around human knowledge. And this brilliantly illustrates a core technical problem known as semantic decapitation. It's what experts call the unpredictable math of neural networks totally severing original human intent and copyright from the final generated output. The sources refer to this as the wood chipper effect. Think about it like this. The AI acts as a massive blender. You toss a brilliantly written, copyrighted book in, and you get a statistical smoothie out. But because of how the math fundamentally works, you can never reverse engineer that smoothie back into the exact original text. The precise provenance of your data is just irreversibly destroyed. Moving on to Part 2, the historical origins of authorship and law, pulling from Epoch 2, specifically video 011 to 020. You know, this history actually completely shatters that whole myth of the solitary romantic genius waiting for inspiration to strike. We often think of authors as these isolated individuals, but the history of authorship reveals a completely different, highly strategic origin story focused on power and control. The sources reveal that authorship transitioned from a closed ecosystem of power in ancient Iraq, where elite scribes literally hoarded complex literacy to maintain their high-ranking status, to a democratized tool. And how did they do it? By intentionally engineering scripts that hacked our brain's biological limits. This was achieved through cognitive chunking, basically grouping sounds into manageable pieces to avoid overloading our working memory. This biological hack shattered those ancient scribal monopolies and sparked mass literacy, literally turning text into the most powerful coordinating tool in human history. All right, let's look at Part 3, the semiotic bridge and the master class. This is a big one, found across Epoch 3, spanning videos 0 to 1 all the way to 083. The absolutely crucial point here is how we actually interface with these machines. We are looking at the exact translation layer between human imagination and cold, hard computation. We really have to seriously question how we use our computers. By forcing humans to click shiny buttons in a lossy graphical user interface, or GUI, we trade the deep complexity of human expression for, well, a colorful lever. We get what the sources playfully call a chimpanzee hitting buttons. Instead, we should be utilizing the exactness of the command line interface, or CLI. The CLI is totally lossless, incredibly lightweight, and it generates a 100% exact, high-fidelity text log of every single action you take. So to build our escape route from this enclosure, we must force our fluid, messy human ideas, what the sources call OS alpha, through the strict syntax of text. This text acts as a semiotic bridge. It flawlessly translates our abstract meaning into the exact, automated physical execution of the computer's hardware, the ALU. Text is quite literally the only way we can safely compile our associative imagination into exact hardware execution without losing our original intent. I absolutely love this quote from the source material. Tricking rocks into thinking using lightning and text. There is no ghost in the machine, folks. There's no magical intelligence brewing inside the silicon. It's just the poetic, literal reality that we are using strictly structured text and electrical currents to command rocks to do our bidding. It reminds us that at the end of the day, we are still entirely the ones in charge of the intent. Next up is Part 4,
the 1689 Breach and the Sovereign Pilot, covering the material in Epic 4, videos 084 to 119.
This part objectively maps out a fascinating sociological framework for our current tech crisis. We're stepping back to view the grand historical cycles that dictate who controls the flow of information and computation. The sources neutrally trace a historical cycle they call agenic kingship. They map a timeline from the 1648 Treaty of Westphalia through the 1689 Orange Pledge all the way to 2026's modern cloud AI. The argument here is that the 21st century cloud monopoly is actually a sociological regression, an attempt to enclose the computational commons and place a centralized authority directly between you and your digital execution.
So, how do you survive this opaque, automated miasma? Well, the sources make it super clear. You must act as the sovereign pilot. You can't just passively consume AI outputs. You have to actively set the high-level intent, author strict constraints using deterministic scripts, and crucially, maintain your legal liability. You have to manually prune the AI's output, injecting the classic legal concept of the sweat of the brow to actively bend that cold code towards your structural intent. Remember, you are the pilot here, not the passenger.
Diving into Part 5, the algorithmic orchestrator and the bare metal. You'll find these details in Epoch 5, videos 120 through 222.
To really grasp how this digital enclosure works, we have to journey past the software, right down to the literal physical microchips making the decisions. And it is absolutely staggering to realize that 80 to 90% of modern AI compute cycles aren't actually delivering exact mathematical truth. Down at the metal level, they are fundamentally just highly educated hardware-level guesses. To process oceans of data at breakneck speeds, our most advanced systems rely on approximations rather than flawless exact calculation.
Which brings us to the core hardware conflict, the FPU gambler versus the ALU surveyor. The floating point unit is incredibly fast for sure, but it's a gambler. It uses secret seed tables to guess the math, permanently destroying the original data's provenance. That is the wood chipper effect in action. To restore digital trust and stop the liquidation of human contributors, we have to bypass the gambler. We need to rely entirely on the mathematical exactness of the arithmetic logic unit, or the surveyor. The ALU deals strictly in 100% exact, deterministic hardware truth, offering globally accountable mathematical receipts.
Now, what's really fascinating here is that this exact hardware divide mirrors a massive clash happening in startup funding. The sources contrast the liquidator VC approach, which basically operates like an extractive Las Vegas casino focusing on short-term bets and disposable founders, against the legitimacy VC model. The legitimacy approach totally abandons the casino to build a sustainable, compounding venture architecture vineyard with a 10-year horizon, prioritizing real, lasting infrastructure over speculative hype.
By combining mathematically pure LIFO, or last in, first out, state ledgers, lightweight X42 payment protocols, and the robust legal shield of UCC Article 12, developers actually have a real path forward. By implementing this specific architecture, developers transition from speculative gamblers playing in the casino into sovereign publishing houses. They capture developer sweat perfectly and legally protect their open-source ecosystems from corporate lock-in.
And that brings us to Part 6, the grand finale sequence, wrapping things up in Epoch 6, videos 223 to 235. This is where the whole massive architectural curriculum coalesces into absolute digital sovereignty. All the pieces, the semiotic bridge, the deterministic hardware, the legal shields, they finally lock together. By securing your exact record of sweat and demanding substrate transparency, you officially step out of the digital enclosure. You become the algorithmic orchestrator. Your role is no longer to just generate words on a blank page, but to architect meaning itself. You take your place as the chief director of your own information flow, firmly holding the reins of the machine.
Ultimately, the choice of how we innovate and interact with these systems is entirely yours. As these autonomous AI systems continue to scale up, will you step up and actively wield the deterministic script, or will you just sit back and let probabilistic noise take control of your digital destiny? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep wondering, and I'll catch you on the next one.